So we're standing out in a field here. Silage was just taken off, and we want to talk a little bit about some compaction. And so the setting on this field was it had spring manure. It needed to be leveled off with a high-speed disc due to some of the tracking with the manure application.
If we're not at the proper moisture content, particularly this is a sandy loam soil, when we think about it, when we have that moisture in the soil, it basically acts as a lubricant and it allows those aggregates to fall apart, and it creates the optimum condition to create compaction. So when we think about when we build roads, for example, there's always a water tank in front of the sheep's foot, right? Because that moisture allows those soil particles to separate and glide across each other, creating that compacted layer. And that was the situation this spring. So between the high moisture content of the manure and then that field operation. Also, these sandy loam soils, these have just enough fines that when we use these operations at an unoptimal moisture content, they really like to settle out and become almost concrete-like.
As you can see, our surface is okay shape, but as we get down 3-4 inches, we start getting these plates, and so we've lost our structure and we're starting to get this really compacted layer, and that was caused by that moisture that we had, plus the tillage operation that went on. As you can see here, our roots are going horizontally along those planes.
That's one sign, as well as when you look at the roots that are growing. This isn't a good example of it. Was very flat, right? So that root was trying to grow down through a very small crevice and was flattened out against those layers of compaction.
So when we had moisture, tillage, and the fact that we had a really warm, hot summer during those periods early on when we didn't have canopy cover, the soil really baked, and that added to this compaction. Just to set this field up for next year, we're having the field's getting ripped, and one of the best things we can do after ripping a field is probably getting roots back into it as in a cover crop. And
when we think about field operations, particularly ripping a field, we want to have ideal moisture contents. And in this situation, as dry as possible. In this drought type condition, we have very low moisture contents. And so what this machine is doing is the sweeps are picking up that soil and dropping it, causing these fracture planes. And so we have the ideal moisture content to do that. And once we create those open crevices, once we create that open pore space, what we want to do is to maintain it. And in order to do that, we need to get a root back into this system. So almost immediately, we're going to plant a cover crop. We still have plenty of a season to get prolific root growth into that subsoil. And so we're trying to keep those pore spaces open that we're creating with the machine operating behind us.